bad. Okay. Sorry, I forgot to press record until now. We're beginning the recorded version of the lesson with missing the introduction. Sorry, everybody. It was a good introduction too, but I apologize. Okay, so it's going to be tight language. So, okay, I guess we'll just go back to the statement so it's on the recording. Amruleh emtsausa da'al mahecha. So the wise men of Athens said to Rabbi Shua ben Chananya, where is the center of the universe? Zakva etzbaseh, he took out his finger to point. Amar lahu, and said to them, hacha, here. Amruleh, they said back to him, miyemar, how do you know? Who told you? How do you know that that's where it is? Amar, aisu ashlu maishcho. You want to know how I know that that's where it is? So bring a measuring tape, bring a rope, and measure for yourself. You'll see it's the center of the universe. Funny response. This Torah is Lashon Rabbeinu Zichron Levracha. It's the language of Rabbi Nachman from his own manuscripts, meaning it's going to be a little bit more condensed, a little bit more sharp, and we're going to have to explain it maybe a little bit more. Let's see. Says Rabbi Nachman, Ois Aleph, Da. Does everybody remember what we say when it says Da? No? We always say that when it says Da, it means that Rabbi Nachman is not giving us over. Da means no. It's not giving us over just something that he deduced. It's something, some holy Torah that was drawn down from the highest place in the world of Atzilus. Da sheyesh or, you should know that there's a type of light, shehu lamala minafshin ruchin v'nishmasin, that is above nefesh, ruach, and neshama. Vehu or Ein Sof, and it is the light of the Ein Sof. So already we have to stop and start explaining Kabbalistic concepts. So I'm sure most people here know, but we'll explain it anyway, that there's 5 levels of the soul of a person. And the acronym for them is Naran Chai. And Naran Chai stands for Nefesh, Ruach, Neshama, Chaya, Yechida. Those are the 5 aspects of the soul. And the Nefesh, Ruach, and Neshama are a part of the soul that's called, in a certain sense, Pnimi, inner. And the Chaya and Yechida are a part that's called Makif, which means surrounding. And the reason that it's called that is because Nefesh, Ruach, and Neshama are all levels of our soul that we can sort of get a hold of. Through everything that we do, we can become more in connection with the reality of that part of us. Right? Remember, we always say in Kabbalah also that Kabbalah doesn't mean I'm looking somewhere far away to find the holiness, or I'm looking way up to get close to Hashem and He's far away from me. In Kabbalah, that deep stuff is all just more inward. I have to remove layers. I have to take away the things that are blocking and go more inward to see these deep levels of myself. Right? Hashem is here, and it's getting rid of all the blockages and all the cloudiness and all of the layers that we're going to get deeper and deeper inside and find that holiness. So these 3 levels of Nefesh, Ruach, and Neshama are something that I can get to, I can grasp, I can connect to, right? And they're high, like it's not easy. But Chai and Yechid are what's called Makif. It's surrounding, meaning what? Why is it surrounding? So I'm sure once again we all know that in Kabbalah we always talk about Oires and Kelim, light and vessels, right? And so we're always talking about these things, right? Just the way we speak about our Avodas Hashem. That we need to build the vessels that then can contain the light that's going to come in, right? So whenever we're struggling, we say, I need to work on my vessels. I need to build my kelim. I don't have the kelim for that yet. I can't quite draw that in yet. What does that mean? It means I need to have a vessel that can contain this new level or this light that I want to grasp, this connection that I want to make. So the light that comes into my vessel is called an Or Panimi, and it's something that I can internalize, that I can get. However, Or Makif is a surrounding light. It's a light that surrounds me. Why is it surrounding my vessel? Because it's too big to go into the vessel. My vessel is not ready to receive it, so it has to hover on the outside. Meaning, it's much higher. It's too much for me. I can't get it. And we had this just not too long ago with the Torah that was talking about Nasev and Nishma, and how we always have to be making going up a level. We have to take that thing that I can draw it in, and then I make a new makif. There's a new level that I can't reach. And then when I work and I try and I strive and I'm able to draw that makif that's too big for my vessels now in, then I go up and I that becomes inside me, and I have a new makif, now a new higher level, right? So that's the general basic understanding of how this works over here. But we're saying, he's not saying, I'm explaining it here, but you have these three levels, nefesh, ruach, and neshama. Those are the things that we can sort of grab a hold of, that we can connect to. But he's saying there's an or that's above that. There's something that's higher than that. There's the soul levels of Chai and Yechida, which have a connection to this concept of the Or Ein Sof, the light of the eternal. The Or Ein Sof means the light of Hashem, if we could say such a thing, that's like pre-creation. In the Kabbalistic system, there's, Hashem had to make a tzimtzum, create a space where creation could happen. When it's just the pure light of Hashem, the light of the Ein Sof, infinite light. It fills every space. It fills nothing else could exist at the same time as the Or Ein Sof. It's everywhere, everything, right? Nothing else can be in existence except for the Or Ein Sof. But, so Hashem had to, this is a big conversation, by the way, we're not going to get into details here now, but Hashem had to make a tzimtzum, a constriction, where that light was sort of removed from a spherical space. It's not really space, there was no space or time at that point, but conceptually, he made a space where creation could take place. And in that space, that's totally vacated, like a dark space, Ki'ilu, you'd say, so he began to reintroduce the Or Ein Sof, the infinite light, but only in a measured way, starting at the top, coming in little by little, to make a creation within that vacated space. And everything that's created inside that space comes from that light of Hashem. But at the very top, where it first comes in, it's the highest of the high. It's the Or Ein Sof. It's connected to the infinite, eternal light of Hashem that blows everything out of the water. Nothing else can exist. And at the top, it's the highest. It's the highest, purest, most close to that infinite light it can be. And then it has to go down, level by level by level by level, through all of those Kabbalistic universes of Ak and Atzilus, Bria, Yetzira, and Asiya, all the way down to the bottom, till we get to the Malchus of the lowest world of Asiya. And that's where we find the entire physical universe. Or so I'm told. All the way down, way at the bottom, is where we are over here. Right? So the Or Ein Sof is, we can connect to Hashem through our nefesh, ruach, and neshama. In addition to that, all of those universes, every one of them has within them all these 5 levels as well. These 5 levels of nefesh, ruach, and neshama, chai, yechida, correspond to the 5 partsufim of every section also, of arich, abba, ve'ima, zer anpin, and malchus. So every place you have 10 spheres, you're going to have these 5 breaks. So these 5 levels of soul also go from here all the way up to the highest of the high, and we have a connection to them in our own souls as well, and they're all interrelated, and they're all level by level connected. What does all that mean? Hopefully, it means something to all of us. But what we're saying over here is that above nefesh, ruach, and neshama is this very, very high light of the Or Ein Sof. Okay, everybody with me? Okay, let's keep trying. And even though through our seichel we can't be masig it, we can't attain or grasp it, we can't wrap our fingers around it, this Or Ein Sof. Afal pikein redifa de machshava lemirdaf abasrei. Nonetheless, the pursuing of our thoughts chase after it, meaning our through our machshava, through our thoughts, we can get into a certain desire, a certain trying to pursue, to figure out, to reach towards, to chase after this Or of the Ein Sof, this light of the Ein Sof. Val yedei haradifa, and through that striving and chasing and trying to reach it, then our seichel, our intellect, we can actually grasp it, but in a way that's called, this is a Kabbalistic language, of mati v'lo mati, of reaching it but not reaching it. Reaching but not reaching. Reaching but not reaching. It means that we could sort of somehow get there and it's giving something to us, but we didn't actually get it. Right? Mati v'lo mati. Because the truth is, it's really not possible to reach it. It's not possible to grasp it. We can't bring it in. Because it's way above our nefesh, ruach, and neshama. It's way above our regular existence. We can't really get it. So Toby just mentioned over here is Or Ein Sof, not the same as Atzmus. Atzmus is higher, correct. So there are different. There are a few different schools of understanding in this Kabbalistic question over here. That there's the Or Ein Sof. There could then be something called the Ein Sof, and there could be something beyond that even called Atzmos, called just the essence of Hashem. In other words, when we talk about the Or Ein Sof, we're already talking about a light that is emanating off of whatever Hashem really is, right? There's another school. There's a few different ways to look at this. Another way to look at it is that anytime we have any discussion about Hashem, on the highest level we can possibly get to, just the words that we're using, they're already, as soon as we're using words, what at all, we're already way down below. And there's some aspect of Hashem that we can absolutely never have any clue of whatsoever. Like there's no, we can't even talk about it. There's nothing to even talk about. There's something even higher than that. There's a few different ways to understand. Certain schools of Kabbalah go into talking about the realm of the Or Ein Sof and what somehow discussing what exists in that infinite realm by sort of going backwards as a mirror from what we understand in the lower realms. And then there's other schools of Kabbalah that say, no, we don't talk about that ever. We only talk about from this place of the tzimtzum and below, and that's it. And we don't discuss anything other than that. There's a few different understandings. For our purposes over here, we'll try to keep it a bit simple. That aspect of Hashem that we're talking about, the Or Ein Sof, is something that is in this realm of mati v'lo mati. Through redifas hamachshava, through trying and striving to chase after it, to attain it, we can sort of reach it, but at the same time not reach it. It's interesting that we had in the Torah of Rav Nosson, in the Likutei Moharan Torah on Parshas Chukas, we had beautiful idea, because of course over there in Parshas Chukas is the Para Aduma, which is the place where we understand that there's something that we're not supposed to be able to understand. The red heifer, how it works. We're not supposed to get it. There's something we can't understand over there, right? So he says over there this concept of related to makif, related to that light that's just above our reach, that we can't really reach. And he says it's something similar to this mati v'lo mati. That's why I wanted to bring it up. That so why do we bother? What are we striving for? What are we trying to do? It says that in our striving to get closer to Kodesh Baruch Hu, and our true desire to reach Him, that makif that's above us sort of radiates down to us. Yeah, we don't touch it. You're right, and we don't actually get to grasp it and pull it in, but it has a hashpa on us. It like emanates something to us. We're not bringing that gigantic light into us, but it gives us something. It gives us some type of chizuk, some type of inspiration, some type of light comes onto us from it, right? So it's like this with this whole inyan in Kabbalah. We're trying and we're trying and we're reaching and we're reaching, and we know Hashem is infinite, right? We all know this, but we still reach and we still go and we still try, and the level that's above us is always emanating something down to us that is going to help us to pull us up eventually to that level. So too in this realm as well, mati v'lo mati. We're not quite there, but it's giving us a little something. I hope that makes some type of sense.
So as low as you go, it's as high as you can go.
Sorry, one more time?
As low as you go.
Yeah.
It's as high as you can go. The fall.
The fall?
the fall allows one, if one's able to go higher.
Sure, definitely. That's for sure.
Yeah.
That's for sure. Okay, let's go farther. I hope everybody's with me because this is interesting stuff. Beis. Da, v'da, and know. She'i efshar lahasigoisai. It's not possible to reach it, to attain it. Afilu v'chiras mati v'loi mati. Even in this realm. We just said we can reach it. We can get something from it, right? Mati v'loi mati. I can reach it but not reach it. But I have some relationship with it. He says that even that, where I just get a little something from it, is only possible ela al yedei asiyas ha-mitzvahs v'simcha. I can only reach this, I can only attain this through doing mitzvahs b'simcha. Not what we expected to hear, right? Not what we expected to hear. So, like this, listen to this for a second. I think this is the way that Rabbi Rosenfeld, C.R. Rosenfeld, gave this over to Reb Nosson Maimon, who then gave it over to me, that I'm going to give it over now, in a slightly different way. But there are 5 tremendous neshamas. Just like we said, there's 5 levels of neshama. In the Breslov tradition, there's 5 neshamas that were so very special and powerful that they all injected something into the world that was never there before. The first one is Moshe Rabbeinu. Needs no introduction, right? Is obvious. The second one is Reb Shimon Bar Yochai, who was the first one who was able to reveal this Torah of Kabbalah, the deep hidden Torah, right? And after Reb Shimon, the next one after that was the Arizal, right? And the Arizal is the one who's sort of responsible for, or the one who we get, let's say, most of our Kabbalah from. Yeah? The Arizal. After him, who's next? There's 2 more left. Anybody guess? The Baal Shem Tov. The next one was the Baal Shem Tov, who shattered the world open with a whole new light, right? And gave a whole new existence. And the last one is Rabbi Nachman. And actually this is hinted to in the introduction to the Likutei Moharan, where Rabbi Nachman has an introduction there where he talks about this inyan, and we see that the gematria of Rabbi Nachman's name is exactly the same as Reb Shimon Bar Yochai. And he held himself to be like a type of reincarnation, Gilgul of Reb Shimon Bar Yochai. The whole introduction to Likutei Moharan is about Reb Shimon Bar Yochai, which is very, very interesting, right? Anyway, why am I saying this? You have these, first of all, we're talking about the 5 souls, right? And we're talking about this Kabbalah and this tremendously, emanating, shining light of Torah that we're talking about over here. But the Arizal, I would say, I think it's very, very easy to say, that he was the biggest revealer of Kabbalah in history. Yeah? And he also died, like Rabbi Nachman died when he was 38. I think the Arizal died when he was either the same age, 38 or 40. I can't remember, but right around the same age. And all of the Torah that he had, he gave over to Reb Chaim Vital in, I think, 10 months. That's it. It was all very quick. Everything that he had was from, once again, he wasn't like calculating things and reading philosophy and figuring out what was going on. It was all Ruach HaKodesh. It was all learned in this way. So he was the highest of the high. He was head and shoulders above everybody. In his generation were the people who wrote the Shulchan Aruch and the Ramah and the what's it called, and the Beis Yosef, Yosef Karo, and the Ramak was right around the same time. Rav Moshe Cordovero was in Sfas around the same time, and all these tremendously holy people, high people, and then there was the Arizal, who was like head and shoulders above everybody. The Arizal could look at a person, and by looking at their forehead, he could know their whole existence. Where did they come from? Where were their souls in the past lives? What was their mission? What did they need to do? What were their averas? The Arizal could see everything about a person just by looking at them. The Arizal, want to know something amazing about the Arizal? This is so awesome. If you go to Eretz Yisrael, and you go up into the north, and you go around to find the Kivrei Tzadikim. So the Kivrei Tzadikim that we have there are like out of this world. It's so spiritually powerful. We have the Kvarim of Tanaim. We have Rabbi Yosef HaGilili. We have Rabbi Tarfon. We have Rabbi Akiva. Right? We have like these amazing, high, huge tzaddikim from 2,000 years ago. And we have the later ones also, and the Arizal's up there and everything. But do you know how most of those Kvarim were located? Was the Arizal. He walked through the entire north of Israel and found these burial places, and he knew through Ruach Chodesh what each one was, and they marked them at this, like whatever it was 600 years ago, and they've been there ever since in all these places. This was the koyach of the Arizal. He was a person not from this universe who saw everything in such a deep way. This is what he saw. The Arizal was so incredibly amazing. Everything that we have in Kabbalah. The Zohar, by the way, everyone thinks the Zohar HaKadosh is the main sefer of Kabbalah, which is sort of true. But the Zohar before the Arizal was kind of like a closed book. You could read the Zohar, and you should, and a lot of it is kind of stories. Some of it's Musar, and a lot of it is actual pure Kabbalah. But people could not understand it. Things didn't line up properly because the whole system was not revealed yet. Came along the Arizal and published this whole system of Kabbalah. He gives us the whole detail, the whole structure, everything, and explains in all these Sfarim. And it's through this that we're able to now look back at the Zohar and understand how everything fit together. It didn't fit before, and he fit it together. And that's one thing. He wrote the sefer called, all these Sfarim were written by his student Reb Chaim Vital from his Torah. The sefer Shar HaGilgulim goes and explains all of the reincarnations throughout all the holy people of Klal Yisrael, and how Moshe Rabbeinu was a reincarnation of Hevel, for example, and Korach was a reincarnation of Cain. All these things, like, people didn't know this, but the Arizal was able to reveal all this. So, what are you getting from me right now? The Arizal was something totally amazing, something not normal, something out of this world, right? What did the Arizal say about himself? He said the only reason that he was able to do all of this and to reveal all this and to be the conduit for this was because when he did mitzvahs, he did them with incredible simcha. This is what he said. Everything that he had was because he did mitzvahs with tremendous simcha. He himself said this. This is brought down even in the Mishnah Brura, which is a halacha book, which is very interesting. So this the Rabbi Nachman is saying now. He just told us. We can only get this aspect of connection to Hashem. Mati v'lo mati. We're sort of reaching and sort of not reaching. Even that, we can only get through doing mitzvahs b'simcha. K'ayedei simchas ha-mitzvah, because it's through the simcha of a mitzvah, nishlam ha-kedusha, that the kedusha is completed, u'mayla ha-chiyus va-kedusha shabaklipas, and we raise up the kedusha and the holiness and the chiyus, the life force that is amongst the klipas, amongst those husks, the shells of impurity. Bebechinas echad asar samane hakataris, in this aspect of the 12 spices of the kataris, of the incense. Every sentence requires so much explanation in this. It's unbelievable. So just remember, this inyan of simcha, in according to the Arizal, according to Rabbi Nachman, is not just it's nice to be happy. That's not what we're saying here. Everything that we have is going to come through doing mitzvahs b'simcha. Amazing. So he says, Ki al yedei simchas ha-mitzvah nishlam, because through doing mitzvahs b'simcha, we complete the kedusha, and we raise up chiyus and kedusha, the holiness and the life from the klipas. So like this. Let's explain like this. We know, everybody knows this once again, but we have to say it, that in the sort of pre-creation times, and Hashem was enacting the Kabbalistic system that is still currently doing what it's doing. And in the beginning, in what's called Olam HaTohu, before Olam HaTikun, all of the surahs were lined up in one line. as opposed to being in different columns and sharing with each other. They were all in one line. And so when the light came down to descend into the lower worlds, each one of those spheres, of those lower 7 spheres, said in the words, Ana Emlech, I'm going to be the king, I'm going to reign. Meaning, I'm taking all the light. And when it did that, the light was too much for the vessels of that sphere, so they shattered. And this happened with the 7 lower spheres. And those pieces that were shattered from those holy vessels, way, 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 way high up in creation, went out throughout all space and time and beyond. And everything that we do nowadays, every time we do a mitzvah, we're taking those sparks of Kedusha, those nitzotzos to Kedusha, and we're elevating them back up to where they need to be. This is what's called Tikkun Olam, in a nutshell, in a klipa shell. And not only that, but they fell, some of them fell throughout all of creation, but some of them fell even lower, below the lowest of all the spheres. And that fell into the realm of klipa.
So that's why you take the smelly, the 11th, or the smelliest.
So let's get there, close. So just like there's 10 spheres of Kedusha, there's 10 spheres of klipa, you might think. However, in the realm of klipa, it's not only 10, there's actually 11. Why is there 11 in the realm of klipa? Because, as we said, just like there's 10 spheres of the Kedusha, there's 10 spheres of klipa, of tuma, of evil. And by the way, those spheres have names, and it's terrifying, the way that they're, everything that goes along with them. But everybody knows that nothing can exist without Hashem. Nothing can exist without some type of injection from Hashem. So that side of klipa has 10 spheres, but it also has an extra little jolt of Kedusha in there to give it life, to give it existence. So really it has 11. The side of Tuma, of evil, has 11. So the incense, the Ketaris, that was in the Beis HaMikdash, and the whole concept of the incense, of the Ketaris, and its 11 herbs, spices, sorry, I'm thinking KFC for a second here. It's not the Colonel's recipe of 11 herbs and spices. It's the 11 ingredients, spices of the Ketaris, is there to counteract the 11 of evil. So this was the aspect of the Ketaris. And it's also why, when we daven in the morning, the first section of davening, which is called the Korbanos, is the place in Kabbalah that lifts up from that low place, the lowest of the low places, it pulls the Kedusha up. Because it's the very beginning of davening. And it's the place that elevates Kedusha from the lowest. all of our tefillahs, al pi Kabbalah, are taking the lowest of the low and elevating it all the way up to Atzilus. And then bringing the good stuff back down. That's the whole flow of every single one of our davenings. Right? But the first part is the Korbanos, and the main part of the Korbanos is Ketaris, which is this concept of 11 that draws. So this concept that we're saying over here, what does it mean to Nishlam HaKedusha? It means pulling those sparks that fell way, way down, that made it all the way to the bottom, that went into the realm of Klipa, into the realm of evil. It's pulling those sparks up. That's called being Nishlam. That's called completing, perfecting the Kedusha. And it's Male, like he says, Umale Achius VaKedusha Sheba Klipas, is taking that Kedusha that's in the Klipas, that's in those places of evil, and raising them way back up to the top. I once heard a funny joke, I'll tell you in a second, that this is funny. So the joke is not meant to be real, but the concept is interesting to think about. That there was once a guy who came into a shul, and he was the 10th guy. But this guy was like really mamish, like not a nice guy. He was a gangster, and he didn't look good, he didn't smell good. He was not one of the guys, but he was a bit of an apikoros. He knew a little bit of Torah. So he saw that they were still waiting for another person, and he's like, "We have 10 people here. What are you waiting for?" And they were like, "Don't worry, we're waiting." And he caught on that for some reason, I'm not saying this is right, this is just a funny joke. They didn't want to count him in the minyan, right? Which is not nice. But they didn't want to count him in the minyan. And so he said to them, he knew what they were doing, and he said to them, but there was, in the Ketores, there was one spice called chelbana that did not smell good. It was nasty. But it's part of the Ketores. Meaning to say, like, just because I'm not what you really expected, I may not live up to your standards, maybe I'm a bit smelly, you should count me. So what did the guy say back to him? Yeah, but in the Ketores there was 11. So let's just be clear. We're not. If a guy comes in that we don't judge people and say, should I count this person? Should I not count? That's not how it works. You're a Jew. You come into shul to daven. We count you. That's it. But meaning there's this one spice in there that is a stinky spice, and it's not nice, and it's but it's in there. Yeah. What do you want to say?
Rabbi, I want to clarify.
Yeah.
The 11th Sphira of the Klipot. Did I hear you say that was a Klipa of Kedusha in order to enliven them?
So,
and if so, then it's not evil.
It's not 11. It's not 11 spheres. It's still 10 spheres of Tuma on that side of evil, but nothing can exist without a spark from Hashem. So there's the 10 of evil, but there's also one thing more over there, and that's why it's 11 on that side. There's only 10 spheres of evil, but it has a spark of Kedusha that gives it light, that gives it life to exist. Nothing can exist without a spark from Hashem. So,
and the 11th one is holy?
I don't know exactly. The 11th one is the energy from Hashem. Whether it's holy or not, I can't say for sure. But it's the side of because of this though, the side of evil has 10 spheres of Tuma, and one extra ingredient, which makes 11. It's like the opposite of the Ketores that has 10 good smelling things and one bad. It has 10 bad smelling things and one good, I guess. I'm not sure. Okay. But anyway, the main point is that it's a tremendous avodah, and it's important that we draw out those sparks of Kedusha from even in the realm of Klippa, that we lift it up and we draw it up and we take it back to where it's supposed to be. We've seen before that, we asked the question, many people ask the question, why did we have to go into Mitzrayim, into Egypt? Right? Because Mitzrayim was called Ervas Haaretz. It was called the source of Tumah of the entire universe. It was the worst place in the world, in the whole world, was Mitzrayim. So, in the promise that Hashem said to Avram Avinu, He said, Yedoya Teda, you should know that your children are going to be strangers, be'eretz lo lahem, in a land that's not theirs, va'avadum ve'inu, and I'm going to inflict them, and they're going to be slaves for 400 years, right? But He didn't say they have to go to the worst place in the universe. Who said? It has to be the worst of the worst, right? And Avram Avinu didn't get upset. He said, okay, no problem. Let's start the mission. Right?
But that's different slavery.
So, okay.
Sorry.
But what's the question? The question being, why'd they have to go to that place? Why'd they have to go to the worst place in the world? And one of the ideas is because that's in that place is where these sparks of Kedusha were buried so deep. That place of Klippa, that worst place in the world, and the way that it works according to this Kabbalistic view, is that the bigger the spark, the more holiness there is, the deeper it has to be buried. The worst tumah it has to be found in, right? Why? Just if you think about it, I try to think about it in a way that makes sense in my mind. I don't know if it makes sense in everyone else's mind. But like imagine you have something that's emanating a hugely powerful light, and you throw it on the ground, and you just throw a little bit of sand over it, right? So it's still going to shine out. You put another shovel over it, it's still there. But something that's like a nuclear-powered, light beacon, if such a thing exists, I don't know, right? You got to bury it deeper down. And the more powerful it is, the further down it has to be buried. So too, with these sparks of Kedusha, if they're going to be hidden so that there's free will in the world and we can go and do our mission, the holier they are, the deeper they're buried. So that means, just for, I don't know if it's chizuk or not to us, but the harder we struggle for something, the bigger the kedusha is there. It doesn't mean we're going to win the lottery and we're going to get it and everything's going to be beautiful, but we're going to do something amazing by going through those struggles. And we're going to get to some kedusha that we couldn't get otherwise, somehow. So this is what we're doing over here. We're trying to get to the biggest kedusha. We're trying to go down and pull it up. Rabbi Nachman always says, remember by Yisro, Rabbi Nachman said that Yisro, who was a ger, he says that the reason why the Zohar HaKadosh says that when Yisro went from being the priest of Midian to becoming a Jew, that it was like the biggest Kiddush Hashem, I can't remember the words exactly, the Zohar HaKadosh says, that ever took place. Why? Because when something goes from so far away and goes to Kedusha, it's a tremendous sanctification, glorification of Hashem in Shemayim, right? So when we take these things that are so low and bring them back, it's a very, very big deal spiritually in the upper worlds. Okay, so this is what we're doing over. This is what we're trying to do. So let's go a little weiter. Time is it? Okay, a little weiter. So we say, Ki ha-klipos heim bechinas moisrais. Klipos are an aspect of excess. Veheim bechinas atzvus, and they're an aspect of sadness. The bechinas, like the pasuk says, bechol etzev yiyeh moisar. In all sadness or sorrow, there is excess. Veheim tukfa dedina. They are the very powerful, harsh judgments. The bechinas ve'is atzev el libay. That it says by the flood, by the generation of the flood in Noach, that when Hashem enacted the flood, ve'is atzev el libay, he was sad in his heart. Hashem became sad in his heart. Okay, let's unpack this a little bit now. So, klipas are moisris, are extraneous, are extra. So if you think about a fruit, right? This is one of the mashalim, the most obvious one that we use to understand klipa and kedusha. That when you have a fruit, an orange, let's say, right? So you have the good, yummy orange on the inside. We'll call that the kedusha, of course. But surrounding and blocking out our access to that is the peel. That's a shell. It's like, that's not the part that we want. It's not the fruit. It's extraneous. It's excess. It's something extra. You with me? So there's a lot you could say about this. We won't get too much into it, but I'm going to say it like this, just very quickly, because this goes together with our Chacham and Tam Torah. That when we stray off from the derech of tamimus, of just being simple, right? Holy simplicity, doing good things, not getting off of our track, staying in our lane, doing good things where we are, with the people we're with the talents we're given, and not needing outside things, not thinking I need to be like that person, I need to be like that person. Those are all extra. Those are all excess, moiser, extra, extraneous. The path of holy simplicity, of sticking with where Hashem put me, with Torah and mitzvahs, with what I'm supposed to be doing, with our traditions, is a path of holiness. That's the opposite of excess, really. And you can ascribe this to many things, and to many desires, and money, and sexual desires are all related to this also. Okay, you with me? So excess on the negative side is one thing. So interestingly, I just want to read this because Reb Chaim brings a comment on here. This is on page 72 in this book, note number 8. Because he says, in all sadness, there's extraness. There's things that are extra, right? So, what does it mean, extra things, excess? So listen to this. I don't know exactly what to make of this, but we'll see if we can figure it out. He says, from the verse in Proverbs, we see that sorrow and excess, klipos, are synonymous. Sadness and excess, or klipa, are all one thing. The Talmud relates that Rabbi Yirmiyah was smiling profusely. He had a big, huge smile. He was very, very happy. So Rabbi Zera asked him, in all sorrow there is excess. Meaning what? Rashi explains over there that a person who avoids levity is rewarded. Why? Because maybe the aspect of like getting involved in jokes and levity means being like not serious and light, right? That's an excess. That's not something that's part of Avodas Hashem. That's what he said to him. So Rabbi Yirmiyah answered him, "No, I'm wearing tefillin." What does that mean? In our context, Rabbi Zera warned Rabbi Yirmiyah against the excess of this worldly joy. Right? For in our realm, the klipos rule. And so this excess was in reality sorrow, not joy. Meaning what? Meaning like this. We think that in our view, not our view, but in the view of this world, we might think that you know what's real joy is I'm going to go out to the Leafs game, and before that I'm going to go out to watch the pregame show in the sports bar, and then afterwards I'm going to go, I don't know, I hope I'm not offending anybody, but I'm going to do all these things, and that's going to all be, that's simcha, right? Because at every stage of the game, when I'm drinking and watching in the sports bar, that's giving me smiles. And when I go to the Leafs game, I'm excited, that's giving me smiles. And then afterwards I'm going to go, I don't know, the after party, whatever people do, and that's going to give me smiles, right? Or I'm just going to, spend my time all day, I'm going to watch movies and things that this is what life is all about. And I'm going to only get the highest quality, best food, and I'm going to be a foodie, like we said, right? And I'm going to get into all these things, right? Because those make me happy. Right, so we would say that's not the type of simcha we're talking about. That is not simcha. Those are things that are in the long run going to pull us down, and we'll never be satisfied with them. And that's called moisturize. That's called extra, right? So this is what he was saying. You know why I'm smiling? Because I'm wearing tefillin. We said in the Chacham and the Tam this amazing, amazing, amazing piece of advice, right? Which is that a person will only feel sameach bechalkai. When will a person be happy with their lot? It's impossible to feel happy with our lot if we're not doing what we're supposed to be doing. If we're not accomplishing our mission, or the way I like to say it, if we're not doing something meaningful, we will never be happy with our lot. We have to be doing something meaningful. And that can take many forms, But doing that means that I'm actually doing what Hashem put me in the world for. I'm accomplishing something. I'm contributing to holiness, whether it's helping people, whether it's learning, doing mitzvahs, chesed, tzedakah, anything that I'm doing. I mean, I have a talent for something, I should be using it in the way that I'm supposed to use it. And when I'm doing that, it's going to feel good. And I'm going to be besimcha. It's going to be real simcha. I'm going to be samech bechalkai. But if I'm not doing that, I no matter what I do, there will always be something that my soul is telling me, this is not what it's all about. My soul's going to be pulling me back and saying, you're not as happy as you think you are. Right? These things also, I would say, are in the realm of moisres that cause sadness rather than happiness. Right? So doing good things. One of the statements that we say in the class of the Chacham and the Tam is do something good right now. Right now. And that applies to any moment. Any moment in my life, I can do something good. And it doesn't have to be a burden, right? Late at night, right? I have some time. So just instead of, going on to Netflix or whatever all the other ones are and going crazy and wasting time or worse, right? So just, one of the ones I like to say is like, call up your mother. Call up your father. You have a friend who's lonely, who's sad, give them a call. That's a beautiful thing to do at any time. And it's very positive and very good and rewarding to do. Okay, you could learn a little bit, you could try to find a mitzvah, you could give some tzedakah, there's a lot you could do. But just to do something good at any moment, whatever it is, a little thing. Anyway, sorry. Rant over, yeah. Okay, so what happened by Noach? What happened by Noach that we're seeing over here? Klipas are this aspect of Moiser and an aspect of sadness. So why does it say by Noach that and harsh judgment? By Noach, it says, right during the time of the flood, it says about Hashem, Hashem became sad to his heart. Why? Because sadness is in direct connection to harsh judgment. In other words, Hashem didn't really get sad. He's not like us who gets depressed and sad. But it's teaching us that preceding harsh judgments, preceding this negativity and this place of klipa, is going to be the concept of sadness. These two things are connected. We know. He says, Ve'ikra simcha, hi balev, the next part. The main aspect of simcha is in the lev, is in the heart. Shekasav, v'nasata simcha balibi, like the Tehillim says. And you placed simcha in my heart. Simcha is connected to the heart. So over here, by the harsh judgments of the flood, it says vayisatsev aliboy, sadness in the heart. But the opposite of that, and we see the pasuk says in Tehillim, is simcha in the heart. Simcha in the heart. I believe Rav Rosenfeld brought this down, but we see that so interestingly, the Shechina, which is what we're trying to connect to and what we're trying to draw down, the gematria of Shechina is the same gematria as Lev Simcha, as a heart of Simcha. Right? Unbelievable. So in Kabbalah Shabbos we say Ulayishrei Lev Simcha, and to the upright of heart have Simcha. Lev Simcha is Shechina. We want to connect to the Shechina. It's through Lev Simcha, like we said about the Arizal. Also, you see this concept of that it's mitzvah, right? So within mitzvah is hidden the name of Hashem and the Shechina, and you take the mem can be flipped over to be in what's called atbash. So atbash gematria is when you take, like, it's called atbash because instead of aleph, the first letter of the aleph base, you go to the taf, which is the last letter of the aleph base, right? Instead of beis, you go to shin, which is the second last letter, right? You switch them around. So if you take the mem, right, meaning that mitzvah is the same word as Hashem. So when we do mitzvahs, we connect to Hashem. Shechina is the gematria of Lev Simcha, of a heart of Simcha. Mitzvahs besimcha will give us Shechina, will give us connection to Hashem. So he says over here, he brings down what happens to us when we start to exist in a realm of sadness. So when we feel sorrow, when we get into this, we bring ourselves into a realm of takva dedina. Takva dedina means harsh judgments, but it's the place of klipa. When we dwell in sadness, we bring onto ourselves sorrow. We bring onto ourselves klipa. We bring onto ourselves all of this negative energy of klipas. And so what happens is when we get into that place, we're also more likely to give into our negative urges, our desires, particularly of money and sexual relations. When people get sad, that's where they go to. Food also is another one. And so we see, it's brought down in many places that all of our tzaros come from sadness. And it's why in the Torah of Rabbi Nachman, it's like the worst of all averas. It's not an avera. It's the worst thing that we can do. Rabbi Nachman preached the concept of simcha all the time, and ein shum yeush, there's no such thing as giving up, right? Why? Because he knows, and many people will say this, that when the Satan, the Yetzer Hara, wants to trick you into doing an avera, he's not interested in that avera. That little avera, it's not such a big deal, you could do tshuva, right? But what he wants is that you'll do the avera, and then because you did the avera, you'll get sad, you'll get depressed, you'll get angry at yourself, you'll feel bad, and then when this is exactly what we're saying over here, when you get into that realm of yisatzev al liboy, you got sad in your heart, now the klipas are going to start to surround you, and when the klipas start to surround you, the clouds are up, everything's dark, you don't get to see Hashem, the blockages are up, and now you're going to be drawn into those negative desires to do negative things, and then you're going to do that, and then you know what's going to happen? It's going to happen even worse, and you're going to bring yourself into the cycle, and you're going to be out of it for weeks, or months, or chas v'shalom, even years, right? So it's so important. What did we say this past week on Monday? This past Monday in the Chacham and Tam? It's all about new hischadshuyos, new hitchadshuyot, new beginnings, always starting fresh. I cannot dwell on the negative aspects of my past. I have to start fresh, maybe multiple times a day. If I feel sad about what I did yesterday, okay, I'm going to do tshuva. And you know what? Hashem loves me. He's going to accept my tshuva. And I'm starting again, fresh. I'm not letting that get to me, right? This is part of everything that we're saying over here. Yeah, it's important stuff. Okay, let's go a little bit more weiter. We're getting close here. V'galus ASHREINU shu bechinas leiv shehu simchasan shel Yisrael. So we just said that the Shechina is this aspect of the heart and the simcha of Yisrael, right? Iker galusa, the main galus, exile of the Shechina, k'sha'atzvus shehem haklipos goivrim aleha, is when sadness and klipas overcome her. The bechinas v'yisatzev aliba, like we said, by the flood. The reason that all that didn't came in and the reason all this negativity started was because of v'yisatzev aliba. V'zehu k'sheyetzu Yisrael mehagalus kesiv, and that's why, beautiful pasuk, Lubavitch likes to use this pasuk all the time, such a sweet pasuk, that when we come out of galus and when redemption happens, what do we say? Ki besimcha teitzehu. We're going to come out besimcha. The opposite of sinking down into galus and galus shechina and atzvus, sadness, is ki besimcha teitzehu. We're going to come out with simcha. Meaning what? Simcha is the key to get out of the complete galus and also our own individual galus, our own individual sadness. Ubishvil zeh shayidei haketores mailin mehaklipos chiyusam, and it's because of this that through the ketores, the incense, we raise up the life force from the klipas, from the husks of evil. Kasiv behem, it says about the ketores, right? You're waiting for it. How do we know that the ketores has something to do with simcha? Ketores yisamach leiv. Who would have thought? They're shaking, they're spraying the incense smell all over the base of Mikdash, and it's I would have thought it's going to be solemn, and it's going to be something very serious, and the smell is going to be there, and it's going to be, I don't know, it's more of a spiritual solemn thing. Min Mishlei, Shlomo HaMelech said, Ketores yisamach leiv. The Ketores makes the heart happy. Why? Because it's this concept of taking from way below, taking from the lowest level, down in the klipas, which are 11, and elevating it up. That's what the Ketores does. And you know what that does? That makes us happy. That gives us simcha. If we're dwelling down there, it's atzvus, it's sadness. But when we raise up from there, and we redeem from there, that's all about simcha. Nimtza comes out. Kisha oiseh ha-mitzvah b'simcha. When we do a mitzvah b'simcha, azai maleh ha-shechina. We raise up the shechina. What's the shechina called? Leiv simcha is the same gematria as shechina. So when we do a mitzvah b'simcha, we're raising up the shechina. Shehi ha-mitzvah. And you know what? The shechina is the mitzvah. I'll speak about that in a second. She's simcha salev, which is also the simcha, happiness of the heart. Mi bein ha-klipa, from down there in the klipa. Listen to this. This will finish with this. So there's a statement that I like to give over, that I read in the introduction of Ram Tzvi Kluger to his sefer called Yichud HaShabbos, which is a beautiful, beautiful, amazing sefer about the holy aspects of Shabbos. And he explains over there in very simple terminology, what does it mean Shechina? What does it mean Shechina, right? Usually we say Shechina is the divine presence as it's revealed in this world. That means a lot of nothing in my mind. But what does it mean? It means like this. So there's something called HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Kudsha Brichu, which we think of as the creator. He's kind of like outside the system. He's the one who created the whole universe, right? And whenever we do a mitzvah, probably everyone has seen this in your siddur somewhere, there's a thing that we say before doing a mitzvah. Sfardim and Chasidim say this before almost every mitzvah, right? But it says, L'shem yichud kudsha brichu u'shechinte. For the purpose of, in order to unite HaKadosh Baruch Hu and the Shechina, right? Shem Yudke, Vavavke, uniting those two names of Hashem. This is what we're doing when we do a mitzvah. We're uniting Kuchabrichu and Shchinte, Kadosh Baruch Hu and the Shechina. What does that mean?
It's the upper rules or lower world.
Something like that. So he says like this. He says, what am I doing when I do a mitzvah? Is that I'm displaying in public that I realize that the world is not what it appears to be. I'm showing when I do a mitzvah that I know that there's something else going on behind the scenes. Things are not what they seem. And really, that creator that created everything that seems to be outside of the system is right here. And by doing a mitzvah, I'm showing that that's what's happening right now. Right? I'm doing the mitzvah because he told me to do it. And when I do it, it's revealing him in the world. And him being revealed in the world is what the Shekhinah is. So every time I do a mitzvah, I'm showing the Shekhinah. I'm showing that the system is not what we think. It's not just that you go to work every day and you get a paycheck and you drive a car and all this stuff and you pay taxes. That's not what's happening in the universe. Really, behind that is a whole system of Kedusha. And every time I do a mitzvah, I'm drawing that Kedusha into the world. And when I draw that Kedusha into the world, then I part everything and I say, everybody look, Hashem created everything and there's a whole system of Kedusha over here and I'm going to do a mitzvah right now that's going to explode Kedusha in the world. I'm revealing Hashem in the world. I'm revealing the Shekhinah in the world. So a mitzvah, he said over here, the Lashon, Azai Mala HaShechina. When we do this, we raise up the Shekhinah. Shehi HaMitzvah. The Shekhinah is the mitzvah. You hear? It's totally amazing. Doing a mitzvah is revealing Hashem in the world. Doing a mitzvah is revealing Hashem in the world. And that is the Shekhinah. Shehi simcha salev mi bein haklipas. But it only happens when I do that mitzvah with simcha. Just like the Arizal. What did he do, by the way? Think about this. The Arizal showed us, more than anyone else ever, that everything is not what we think it is. He revealed to us the whole hidden Kabbalistic system to the greatest extent that anyone ever has. And how did he do it? How's the only way that he could possibly do it? Is through simcha. Had to be b'simcha. He said himself. He was only able to do that through simcha. So this is it. We'll end it over here for the first class on this Torah. And he said, by the way, the last line of this before we get to Gimel is V'zeh b'chinas malchus de'asiyah ha'olam min haklipas. This is the aspect in Kabbalah of the malchus, the lowest sphera of asiyah, of the lowest world that is elevated up from the klipas. Meaning, when things fall below the lowest of the lowest level of all the spheres into the realm of klipa, and that is elevated back up, right? When we take those low things and we bring them up, that is doing this. That's lifting the malchus of asiyah back up to where it's supposed to be from the place of klipa. So, just to finish off, just something like, once again, I don't want to insult anybody. I don't want to make anybody, think that I'm saying this is easy, because that's not what I'm saying at all. Sometimes people get mad at me because they think, I'm generally a happy person. and so sometimes people say, you're not allowed to talk about this stuff because you're just always happy. So you don't know what it's like to be sad, right? Okay, maybe there's some truth to that, right? But so as I'm saying, I don't want to offend anybody. I'm not saying it's easy, right? And I'm also not making it up. I'm reading Rabbi Nachman over here, right? And I also don't like to apologize for being a happy person either. But one of the things that if we read between the lines over here that he's saying is when we find ourselves in those very low places, and we know, we've heard so many times all of the reasons, all of the chizuk about why we get into such places, right? And we know, like we spoke about, when we find ourselves in a real struggle and in a real place of difficulty, it's not because Hashem kicked us farther away. It's because we moved up to a new level. We're growing. And as we grow, we have to face a new level of klipa. We have to face new challenges in our new level, right? And it's harder. And we're going back to it again. And we also know that Yerida Tzarech Aliyah, Yerida Tachlis Aliyah, that we have to always go down before we can go up. Right? Like Carmela said earlier. It's from that fall that we're going to get up. We have to go down low in the trampoline if we want to be able to go up high. And it's built into creation, and we see it throughout Jewish history. We see it with Mitzrayim. We see it with everything. But what Rabbi Nachman is telling us over here now is that we have a tremendous opportunity. Once again, I'm not saying it's easy, please. But when we find ourselves in those low places, and we make an effort, we try to focus on simcha. We try to leave behind the sadness. How do we do it? We take all the tools that Rabbi Nachman gives us. All those tools of hispoidus, of hischadshus, of renewal, of starting fresh, and of sikas chaverim, of tefillah, everything. We take all the tools that Rabbi Nachman gives us, and we use them to try and be as much of a person as simcha as we can. We go away from extraneous wisdoms and the chachma of tuma, and we go to tamimus, to pure holy simplicity. We do all these things. It's going to bring us back to the realm of simcha. And when we do that, ki b'simcha tetzeu, we're going to come out from that place of galus, that low place, and we're going to lift up. And you know what we do when we do that? We lift the Shekhinah up. We're lifting the Shekhinah up. We're revealing Hashem in the world. And we're revealing Hashem in the lowest places. We're revealing Hashem in the places that normal people can't reveal it. Right? So when we find ourselves in such a place, once again, it's not easy, but we should know that we have something that we can do there. And in a certain sense, it's like it's an opportunity, and it's something that Hashem has given us as a mission, as something that we can do to help perfect the whole universe, to help make tikkun olam, to help bring those sparks back up. And every time we do one of those sparks, it's another brick in the Beis HaMikdash. It's another step to Mashiach coming. And when all those sparks are back, that's when Mashiach's going to bring the last few, and it's going to be it. So I hope that came across in the right way, Mirz Hashem. And we'll hold it there, and we'll hold it till next week. Any questions and or comments? Yes, Toby.
Thank you. I actually have two questions. One is to
Sure.
clarify. You started to tell us, well, first you were talking about gematria of Lev Simcha, and then you started talking about something in Akbash that equals Hashem's name.
Yeah.
And I get what that was.
Okay, so if you take like this, take the word mitzvah.
Right.
You have mem, tzadik, vav, and hey, right?
Right.
So you have the vav and the hey are part of Hashem's name already, right? Yud K, vav K. That's the vav and K of Hashem's name. So mem is the 10th letter from the end of the aleph base, and the 10th letter from the beginning of the aleph base is yud. Tzadik is the 5th letter from the end of the aleph base, I hope. And hey is the 5th letter. So when you do that, the mem is yud, the tzadik is hey, the vav and hey. It makes Hashem's name exactly.
Amazing.
Totally amazing, right?
Great, thank you. That was the first question.
Yeah.
And the second question is like more general about raising the sparks, because I think it was the Lubavitcher Rebbe who said that all of the sparks have already been raised, or maybe not only him, but that's where I learned it.
Kvar kala kola kitzim. It was him, for sure.
Okay.
Yes.
And that they're already, by the time we left Mitzrayim, most of those sparks had been raised. So I'm just wondering if, because we speak about the klipot that fell, whether there's something else that we're elevating, because the broken vessels, the pieces of the broken vessels form a vessel, right? If you take shards of a broken vase or something, you glue it back together, it becomes a vessel once again, but we want the light to return into those vessels. So what we're doing, if we've already raised the sparks, which are the shards, are we then bringing light into those vessels at this point?
Yeah, you know what? I'll be honest with you, and is that I don't know exactly what the statement of the Lubavitcher Rebbe really meant. I do see that in other svarim that the sparks are not going to be all returned until Mashiach, and that even Mashiach is going to be part of that returning of the sparks. So I'm just being honest. I'm not really sure how those all equate, and I'm not exactly sure what the Lubavitcher Rebbe was actually referring to in detail. So
he does speak about the Orchados.
yeah. So we have to see. I'll try and do some research this week, if I remember, to see how we can make sense of those. I mean, because we're not there yet, right? Yeah. So we'll see what we can figure out. Great question, though. Anybody else? No? Okay, so we'll hold it there for now. Everybody have an amazing week. And
one quick question.
yeah, go ahead, Laurie.
You said Musar.
Yeah.
Is that Musar like what people study and it's called extra? You explain to be extra, or I'm getting
No, Musar. No. Oh, I see what you're saying. No. So
I think it's how you pronounce it. That's all.
yeah. So in Hebrew, motarot are, or moisros, motar are extra, and just the tough is a soft. And
It's a different word.
yeah, it's a different word.
How I heard it. Thank
Yeah.
you. Just I need before I go to sleep. I need that off my bucket. That
All clear now. You can sleep. You can sleep like a baby now.
It's one thing that's off the list that's on my head.
Okay, Laurie. Everybody have a great night. Thank you, everybody, for joining. All the best. Bye bye. Sei gesund.
Thank you. Thank
Okay.
you very
Bye
much.
bye. Bye bye. All the best. Okay.